Press start broadcast. Where does the start broadcast button? Share. There used to be a big button that did this. They clearly have changed the system.
That's what I was thinking. It's updated since I did it the last time.
Here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm going to minimize my thing over here.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, thanks for being patient with us. We are here now. Welcome to the Advisor Orientation 101 webinar. My name is Katie Stovall and I'm going to be your technical producer tonight. This evening, Carolyn Simpson is going to be our lovely presenter and we'll be able to handle all the questions and things that are happening. Before we get started, let's take a quick moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the webinar control panel on the right side of your screen. What you'll see is there'll be a little red arrow that you can minimize and expand the screen. As you get going, make sure you're familiar with the raise your hand button. This button is located along the left side of your control panel. It can also allow you to raise your hand if you have a question, or if you want to respond to a question that's being asked by the responder. Can everyone click the button now just to make sure we know where it is? Another important feature of the control panel is the questions pane. To submit a question, type it into the question box. These may be questions related to the presentation or maybe technical questions related to the GoToWebinar system. You may ask your questions at any time and I'll try to field them as quickly as possible. Sorry, I'm a little winded because I'm sorry we're running behind and I'm just a little bit nervous. Please be sure to stay attentive during our webinar and interact as much as possible. The quality of your experience depends on your attention and participation. Try to avoid the distractions of responding to email, checking Facebook or instant messaging, or working on other tasks while you're sitting at your machine. If you need to step away for a moment, don't close the GoToWebinar system as you'll be required to log back in and download everything again if you wish to rejoin. If you experience problems with the audio, one solution is to use the conference call number, which I prefer myself, and listen to the presentation using your phone. Use the click telephone option on the audio pane of your control panel to view the conference call number. This webinar is being recorded and will be archived on the website in a few weeks. If there aren't any questions at this point in time, Carolyn, I'm going to go ahead and hand you the reins so we can get started.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Katie. Just a little bit, if you don't exactly know who Katie is. She is currently the district director in Lambda District, and I am the advisory board specialist in Lambda. And we both came from Theta Province last biennium. Katie was the RDC there, and I was the coordinator of chapter support, which is now advisory board specialist. So we're very happy to be with you tonight, and we are used to working with each other. So Katie will jump in occasionally, and we'll both do some talking through this. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for being here, and thank you for giving your time to Kappa in serving as an advisor to one of our active chapters. It is so important that our chapters have advisors, and we just want to recognize and acknowledge that you take time and effort from your busy lives, and you are sharing your talents and expertise with our collegiate women, and we really, really appreciate that. So thank you. We'll move and kind of talk a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. So the purpose this evening is to talk to you about several things. One is the new fraternity. Yes, did it pop?
It did not change screens, just so you know.
Okay.
You may want to go into presentation mode because we can see your notes.
Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know what that means.
Into your slideshow. But just keep going. Oh, there we go. Now we can see the next screen.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I just didn't have the right button clicked, which is my thing.
No problem.
Our purpose then this evening will be to talk to you about the fraternity structure, the new structure that was adopted at convention last summer, and then give you a little bit better understanding of your role um, and how you fit into this fraternity, into the fraternity at large. We are not going to cover every single thing that you need to know to be an advisor, and I'm hoping most of you are new to the job, because that's what this particular webinar is about. But it's not all-encompassing or comprehensive, but the advisory board specialist in your district will be happy to work with you on additional trainings and information that you might need. So here's our agenda for the evening. We'll be talking about who, what, and how of advisors. We'll look a little bit at your resources. We'll look at this new fraternity structure. We'll have a piece on crisis management, because that's important for every advisor to know. We'll talk a little bit about mentoring, and then we'll have some discussion. Again, this is not totally in-depth. There's a lot of training out there. There are a lot of webinars on the website for you to access, and again, your advisory board specialist is an expert here, so she can help you. Okay, advising who, what, and how. Advising is really kind of like parenting. It's sort of an art. It's not really a science, and it takes a little while for you to develop your style and understand how you best operate as an advisor. And you need to remember that each year will be different, because you'll be working with a new officer. So how you advise will change a bit from year to year. It is so important for you to have patience, diplomacy, and respect of your officer. This will set you up in a really good manner, and it will help you and help your officer to develop a rapport. We want you to be a good mentor and a role model, and remember, our active women model what they see. So if they are seeing us as good role models, they will also be good members. They will follow what we're doing. You need to remember that we are here to give advice and to guide, but we don't mandate. Chapters are self-governing. They get to make their decisions. Sometimes we might not agree with them, but we're here to make sure that they are following CAPA's policies and procedures, and are not getting into really, really risky situations. I like to tell advisors that even if you've been out of the chapter for 2 years, one of the things I don't want to ever hear you say is, well, when I was in the chapter, we did it like this. Because even if only you've been out of the chapter for 2 years, things have changed in 2 years. Our organization is changing and morphing and adapting monthly. And whatever you did 2 years ago while you were in the chapter, it's probably not the same now. So don't relive your glory days. And instead of just saying to your advisee, no, we can't do it that way, work with her, find an alternative, go to the documents, go to the bylaws, the standing rules, the policies, and all these great things that are on the website, and find an alternative. Figure out what the purpose of what it is that she's wanting to do, and then see if you can figure out a way to maybe do that in a different manner. So some of your roles and duties. The time commitment varies from chapter to chapter, but our documents state that an advisory board must meet at least 4 times a year. You meet also with the House Board once a year, and there are certain chapter meetings that require advisors, committee nights, and then also triplet meetings, which we'll talk about in just a minute. The expectations, of course, are to communicate with your officer, know your resources, know where to go when you have a question. Having good relationships with the house board and the rest of the advisory board and the chapter, those are key to making a chapter successful. A triplet meeting is something that many of you may have already had or have scheduled as your chapters come back to school for this semester or quarter, and that's usually when the outgoing officer, the incoming officer, and the advisor meet together and sort of evaluate what happened last year and make some plans for the future. An advisor must be in good standing with the fraternity, so that means you must pay your dues to the local alumni association or pay your per capita fee directly to Kappa headquarters. And the advisor eligibility is outlined in the fraternity policies. And just so that you remember, you must have been 2 years out of school. You cannot have a relative in the chapter that's a daughter, a granddaughter, a sister, probably not a niece or a cousin. You shouldn't hold multiple rows, although we know that does happen in some chapters when we don't have enough people to be advisors. And advisors should rotate every 2 years from your job. Doesn't mean you have to go off the board, but you should rotate the jobs every 2 years. That just keeps everybody fresh and keeps a board healthy, I believe.
Okay. Carolyn, before you go on, we have a question.
Oh, good.
So Courtney is asking, what should they do in place of a house board meeting if the chapter is unhoused?
Unhoused chapter, I actually come from an unhoused chapter, and unhoused chapters should have an advisory board, a joint advisory board, house board meeting once a year. There are a number of things outlined in the blueprints for house boards, and so there are some things that a house board does even if the chapter is unhoused. So there should always be at least one meeting, joint meeting per year with the house board. I don't know if that answered the question.
I think it does for a minute. Courtney, if you have more questions, let me know.
Mm-hmm. So what advising is not? And we put this in here because we want chapters and advisory boards to have a good relationship. And sometimes you might have a group of officers and they're sort of like, why are these women all around us all the time trying to figure out what so you have to be the one to sort of take the initiative and help them understand you are not a spy. You are not there to get them in trouble, but you are there to assist and give them guidance and to help them make the best decisions. And when I do advisory board trainings, I like to tell everyone that a good advisor knows how to ask the right questions to their officer. Things like, what happens when? What do you do if? Who takes care of? Some things like that to help the officer understand if she's planning an event or something, what it is she needs to do. You have to have a good balance between managing her expectations and your expectations. And the way you see something playing out may not exactly be the same way that your advisee sees it playing out. So try really hard not to micromanage. Occasionally, chapters will, as I say, stub their toe or stumble and maybe not make a good decision. That's when you step in and help them work through all of the things they need to do to make things right. It is not your job to do the work. It's actually not your job to call the specialist. That would be the officer's job. We'll talk about the specialists in a minute. But celebrate all those small wins and let them know when you think that they've done a good job. Praise goes a long way with young women. Okay, let's look a little bit at what, maybe I'll just stop. Questions so far?
I don't have any additional questions at the minute, but I really, jumping back to your comment about letting the women do the reaching out, I really think that that's important. And it's I don't know, as someone that's also an employer too, it's really important for them to understand how they need to reach out and to learn that in a safe environment about asking questions, finding out the answers to things on their own. It's difficult sometimes when all we ever hear from is the advisors, really what's happening at the chapter, and what the chapter women really feel about a situation.
I did a officer leadership training Sunday afternoon, and one of the things that I said to the officers, I said, you are the one that must reach out to your specialist, and you should figure out and know where to go to find the information about who she is. It's also, so advisors, it's also one of your jobs is to help them find the resources, and then they shouldn't come to you every time and say, hey, I don't know my specialist, I don't know my district director, who do I call? They need to learn to go to the resources just like you do. Okay, so in CAPA, and many of you know this, we have certainly human and I'm going to say online resources. Lots and lots of human resources. And the titles of these folks and some of the responsibilities have changed since convention last summer. So there is the advisory board specialist, which is the job that I have, and we help advisory boards in a district recruit and train the board. Then there is a content specialist for each one of you and your officer, and that's the person that you go to for specific questions on your job or whatever. So there is a standard specialist, there is a membership specialist, there is a VPAE specialist, and that officer should go to the specialist. She should come to you, and if you all can't find the information in your documents, you go to the specialist. Or if you're having a particular problem, you go to the specialist and she helps you. Then from there, you would go to the district director, which is the job that Katie holds, and she manages all of the specialists in the district. So there are, I think, 14, I don't know, how many specialists do you have, Katie?
It varies a little bit by district depending on the needs. So there can be anywhere from 14 to 18, just depending on what's going on. So some specialists or some districts have more specialists in a particular area than others, but you can bet that there's at least 14 right around there that are covering all of the different content areas, things that you can find and need help with.
And then the content director is the person who oversees all of the specialists across the country that are in the districts. So I'm an advisory board specialist, and my content advisory board content director is Lee Conway. So everyone who would be a standard specialist has a content director. And we'll get to the chart in a minute. I think that will help you out a little bit. And then, of course, the local people. So there's the advisory board chairman and the chapter council advisor. Sometimes those are the same person, depending on the chapter. And then, of course, the chapter officer. And there's a lot of people at fraternity headquarters that can help you out with all kinds of stuff. So knowing who to go to at headquarters is a really big help for you. Questions about that? Okay.
There is a question, Carolyn,
Okay.
and I'm going to paraphrase it a bit. What if the officer and the advisor are on the same page, but the fraternity, the official family and headquarters aren't necessarily on the same page with the advisor and the officer? So they are looking for a solution that really may or may not fall within our policies and guidelines, or may fall on the edges of it, and are looking for alternative solutions.
Oh, Katie.
I know, I'm sorry. I tried to word it,
well,
so it was easy to answer.
Well, okay, I would think that continued talking and discussing with your specialist and your district director is the first thing to do. And then from there, Katie, I'm going to let you answer the rest of that.
I would say first we need to look at what our policies and guidelines say.
Mm-hmm.
We have agreements that we've, as members, all decided we would uphold. And there are alternative solutions for active membership at the collegiate level, special status and associate status, that allow for some leeway in some of the decision making. But in order for us to make membership active and fair for everyone, as long as you're following the bylaws and standing rules, we have to adhere to those as a group. And making decisions on the fly, member by member, is going to wield it's going to ensue in some sort of chaos at some point in time, because everyone's going to be operating under a different solution. And we, as an organization, can't function that way. But well, I think, Carolyn, you hit it right on the head. Continued communication, because there is a solution for most people. We just need to talk it through.
That's what I think. Just continue to talk with those folks, and really understand those governing documents are there for everyone's safety and everyone's liability. And if you're following the documents, then you and the chapter should be safe and within the law, so to speak.
And this is, I mean, maybe just a personal situations I've run into, is that sometimes I don't get the full story. I'm getting I'm going to use air quotes here, a safe version of the story that they feel comfortable telling me, where maybe the decision we could have come to together would have been different if I had known the details. I mean, I don't want to break anyone's confidentiality, but if we need to find a solution for someone, it's best I know everything up front.
Correct. Okay, so that kind of just dovetails here into some of our written resources. And of course, the CAPA website is where everything is. So if you haven't logged in lately, you need to. There's a lot of new features on the website, and they are changed regularly. So I encourage you to get to the website often. To access the resources, you log in, and then you go to the tab on the right-hand side of the home page that says More Resources. And Key Reports is its own tab, and that is an invaluable tool for chapter advisors, because it's the one thing that will tell you if your officer sent in her report, if you all have paid all your fees to headquarters. It will also give you information about, on one side of it, there's a whole section that gives you fraternity announcements, fraternity deadlines. It will give you the number of members in your chapter, your last contribution to the foundation. There are so many pieces of key reports that are helpful to you as an advisor, and we are continuing to add new features to the key reports. So you all have access to the key reports, but not all of you can perform functions on it, but that's okay. Those the chapter advisor and the advisory. Some people can and some people can't, but that's okay. You can read all the information.
And don't feel bad about not being able to edit. I can't either.
Yeah.
I can only view.
Yeah, that's fine. I can't edit it either, so me either. So also on what I call the blue bar page, which is really sort of the menu page, the advisor booklet is there, and it has all the information that you need to be a great advisor. Some good general information and then specific information for specific advisors. I want you to go to that and look at it. There's an advisor checklist. Also, under the advisor tab on the blue bar page, there are some more webinars. We're going to get to the officer training webinars in February, but most of you should probably already know about those. Under the President's tab is the what to do when for chapters. Is that right, Katie? I just looked that up, and I think that's correct.
I think you can find it there, and as well as under the corresponding secretary.
Okay, good. Now, the Fraternity Merged Index is the one thing that I print off, and I'm kind of old, and I bet many of you use multiple screens at work, computer screens at work. I'm old. I use one screen. And so when I'm going onto the website, to the documents, to the bylaws, the standing rules, and the policies, I'm not real good about going to the merged index and then going back to the tab for the bylaws and trying to find it. So I print the merged index off and keep it beside me so that if I have a question about something, I can go right to that and then go right to the documents. The merged index is such a wonderful resource. So if you're not familiar with it, you need to go find it and look at it. And then also, one of the reasons that it's so important for key reports to be kept up to date with who the advisors are and who the officers are is that headquarters sends out targeted officer emails. And those also come to the advisor. And usually, if you're not correct in there, you won't get the email. So you will miss valuable information from headquarters, because that's the only way they know who to send to, is through the key reports. So please remember to keep that key reports updated so that you will get all of the emails and information that you should be getting.
Hey, Carolyn, can I jump in for just a sec?
Yes, please.
If your officers have set up officer-specific emails like corresponding secretary chapter@gmail.com or something, make sure they update their personal email to that. Otherwise, the targeted emails are going to go to their other email address instead of the one they want them to come to.
Very good. I'm going to remember that. Very good point. Okay. So, important tips for accessing the resources. Again, all of the documents are on the website. And when you're working with your officer, don't be afraid to say, you know, I don't know the answer to that, but let's look at it together. And you know, you could be sitting at home and she could be sitting at the house or in her apartment or dorm room, and you both pull up on the website and you can look at it together. You can search for the answer together. You don't even have to be together to do that. So guide, don't force. Help her find the answers. Don't assume anything. Go to the documents, the governing documents and the leadership guides. And then if you can't find what you're looking for, go to your specialist. Ask for help. There's just so much information on the website. And I believe you have to get in there and sort of look around and play with it a little bit when you have time to feel comfortable with it. Because there's a lot of information there. And you know, it might be a grand idea someday you and your advisee go have coffee and y'all are on the computer and you're looking up things together. I know sometimes when I've done chapter leadership days as a Kappa trainer, or EME now, and we get the officers into it, they go, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was here. So sometimes the officers don't know that the resources are there for them either. Okay.
Hey, Carolyn, I have a question that I think would be good for now.
Okay.
So how do we get a hold of the advisor checklist? And I think she's indicating the what to do when for chapters.
Oh, did I just get out? Can y'all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay. The advisor. Okay, which one are we looking for?
She asked about the advisor checklist.
The advisor checklist should be in the advisor. Is this it?
Yep.
It should be in the advisor booklet, I believe.
Perfect. And then another question that we have here from Anna is, advisors lead very active lives, and the new structure seems cumbersome.
Okay.
How will this get us to answers quickly?
Okay.
Do you want me to answer it?
Yeah. Well, I think that and then you can jump in, Katie. I think that the structure looks cumbersome, but I think once you start, I mean, really as an advisor, you have one person to go to, and that's your specialist. And then from there, it can branch out to the district director. So do you agree with that, Katie? I think this is also new. We're all learning.
I completely agree. Instead of before, you went to your province director, and maybe or maybe not, she didn't know the answer, right? So then she'd go to her district or her regional director, and then her regional director would try to hunt down the answer, or however that looked, because we were very vertically structured, which meant that I, as a PDC, needed to know all the information for all 18 officers in order to get them answers quickly. And the same for the associations. I needed to know all of the answers about being an association officer all at the same time. It's really not possible to contain that much information and be a volunteer and have a life and a family and do anything else ever. So in this role, like Carolyn said, you go to one person. You go to the AE specialist when you have questions that are in regards to academic excellence. And if she doesn't know how to find the answer or is unsure of your question, she goes to the content director. Or if it's something that's specific to an academic situation of that chapter, she goes to the district director. So, but it's all contained within the same content area. So in theory, you're going to get the right answer faster.
Yes. And then I believe what has to happen is that the advisory board then has to have good communication, because any question or issue that arises in a chapter affects multiple people, multiple officers. So if you're having an issue on academic excellence, then that could affect the nominating committee or recruitment or a number of things. So the advisory board, in my opinion, in this new structure, has to have really great communication with each other, because each one of you are going to go to a different person, but you've got to come back and talk with each other about what you learned and about what the specialist has told you and how you all go about implementing that. I feel like that's going to be a real key to making all of this work.
I totally agree.
Okay, we're a little bit behind, so I'm going to skip this one. But these are things that if you were going to play around on the website, and once this webinar is archived, you can come back on and scroll down and get to this, and then just go and find these things on the website. The strategic goals template for chapters is really, really terrific, and will really help a chapter stay on target, I think. there's the commitment statement, the social media guidelines. There's so many things, again, on the website. And so I encourage you to just play with this yourself, play with this little page on the website when you have a chance. Okay, let's look a little bit at this fraternity structure. And we've been talking about a little bit, so you might not have heard about some of these other things. We did, after a 2-year task force study and recommendation, adopt this new structure at convention last summer. So we're all new at it too, and as far as I can tell from where I am, I think the rollout and the implementation has been pretty smooth and pretty easy. I know, from my perspective, it's been pretty easy. But it is involving a few more volunteers and more people who are focused on one thing, and as Katie said, not many things. So let's look at this particular. You may or may not have seen this yet, but this is the way the structure looks. So if you will start with the circle in the middle, the district director there is Katie, and then those would be all of the people, the specialists around her that she oversees. The green box on the right that says finance. Finance is a function that we have moved totally into headquarters. So headquarters manages all of our chapter finance, period, all of that. On the left-hand side, there's a ladder of boxes, and those are the folks who are the content directors who work with, for example, the one at the top, academic excellence. Then she oversees the academic excellence specialists in all of the districts. So we have a team in the middle, and then we have teams that are specific to the job on the left. The fraternity council at the top is a council now that is more like a board of directors. They are visionary and forward-thinking, and compared to in previous years, there was a VP of membership, a VP of alumni, a VP of standards. Those all have been morphed into the specialists and the content directors. So the council doesn't have specific roles overseeing those specific roles as they did in the past. The pink box at the top, the council now has the discretion to add a member at large to the council if they feel the need. That could be if there's a particular trend going through our chapters for some reason, and they needed an expert to come on and help them with working through that trend or that issue. That's when a member at large might be added. And then the green box on the side is our executive director. On the right-hand side are the committees that are outlined in our documents. We have standing committees, and you see those, and you're aware of those. And then special committees are added and removed at varying times. We have a strategic planning committee. You'll see there we have a sesquicentennial committee. After the sesquicentennial, that one will go away. So there are different special committees that the council can set up. Okay, questions on this structure? Katie, do you need to jump in?
I do. So a couple of people have asked about seeing this slide a little bit bigger. You can find it on womenwhokappa.org, all lowercase.org, womenwhokappa. So you can see it a little bit bigger. Another great question we got, Carolyn, is who is the content specialist for the chapter council advisor?
Oh, who would that be? You.
It would be the district director. So like the chapter president, the chapter council advisor can come to the district director with questions. The recording, it's not on here and it's kind of hard to see, but the recording secretary also kind of comes to the district director at this point in time as well, mainly because of the bylaws and standing rules and the weekly minutes. So the district director sort of fields questions along those lines as well.
And it's my understanding that this chart is going up on the website because actually as we were preparing for this, I went, I can't find this on the website, and they went, oh my gosh, we haven't put it up. So it's going up on the website really soon, so it should be there probably under general resources. That's where I would imagine it will fall.
I can imagine we got so busy living it that we didn't get it updated.
Yeah, that's what I think. Okay, let's move on then to crisis management. And as I said, and Katie's going to help me out with this one, this is something that every advisor needs to be aware of. It's not just the risk management advisor. It's not just the events advisor. Almost every advisor, your officer has something that she needs to understand about this. This particular slide, though, deals with advisors. So you need to know that the CAPA insurance covers liability for all advisors when you're involved in fraternity activities, as long as we are following our guidelines, our documents. So that's why we stress knowing what those documents say. As long as you're in line with the CAPA bylaws, standing rules, policies, leadership guides, you are covered. So it's always important for advisors to understand the confidentiality and the conflict of interest situations, and it's just so important to maintain confidentiality of your advisee and what's going on within the chapter. Media involvement is something we hope none of us ever have, unless it's really good and they're looking at your philanthropy or something that you've done really well. But if you, for some reason, the media shows up at your door, do not make any statements. I don't think I can stress that enough. No one should make any statements. The chapter council advisor or whoever's there should call Carrie Kittrell at headquarters immediately. Let your district director know, and then it will be. Then you will be given directions if anybody needs to talk to the media. But just don't make any statements. Don't really just don't do it. Katie, you have anything else to add there?
If you can't get a hold of Carrie, you can always reach out to Ashley Moyer. She is the communications director at headquarters. She is also fielding those questions and making sure that we have the right statements available to make to the press. Per our documents, like Carolyn said, no one speaks to the press without approval.
Yeah. And that's just so we have a one voice, a unified voice across the country, and you need to know there are situations on campuses, not always particular chapter issues, but sometimes on campuses the media will show up randomly to any sorority. So it's important to understand what to do and what not to do. Be sure and just keep in good communication with your district director and your specialist when you make any kind of decisions. Just keep everybody in the loop. And if you're talking to them too much, they'll tell you, I don't need to know that. It's better to over communicate than not communicate. And you should understand what the chapter emergency procedure is. It's in the chapter president's leadership guide. There is information in addition on disaster preparedness, and there's an emergency planning guide, and it's also listed under the chapter advisors in the on the blue bar page in the advisor booklet. And under the risk management chairman's leadership guide, there's all of the risk management procedures that you need to follow. So all advisors should be aware of those. Even if you don't know them very well, you at least know where to go to find the information when you need it. Okay. Mentoring. We really are mentors as advisors. So just a few quick things here. Be an active listener. Sit up straight, ask questions, make eye contact. Just let the advisee know that you're listening to her, and be dedicated to her success. Take pride in what she's doing, pat her on the back, let other people know that she's doing a good job. And the same thing with the rest of the board. Help her also be dedicated to praising the other officer's success. That's really important. Be curious. Get to know her. Find out things about her. You know, and then ask questions. Ask questions. Be engaged with your surroundings. Just advisors usually view their role as more than just a job, and understanding not only the chapter but the big picture, the organization, how we fit in, what our philanthropies are, that will help your advisor, that will help your advisee see that you sort of understand what's going on. Be willing to step out of your comfort zone. You know, they may plan something that you're going, I don't know if this is going to work, I don't know if I would do this, but that's okay. Let's try new things and consider new thoughts, and we don't grow if we don't step out of our comfort zones. But always follow the 3 R's, being responsible, respectful, and ready for your advisee. All right, questions?
I don't, oh, hang on.
Thoughts, comments?
Thank you for noting the change about who the chapter contacts with media requests. It used to be the fraternity vice president, which it did until now we have 4 of them instead of 1. This was just a thank you on how great things look, Carolyn.
Well, thank you. All right, we've got a few things. If you have questions, do these. So what's next? These webinars will be archived, and you can go in and find them under Resource Chapter Advisors. Yeah, you can see here just more information about webinars and the series at education@kkdg.org. And that says, oh, that's one we missed. If you have questions about advising, you don't contact the coordinator of chapter support, you contact the advisory board specialist. So sorry. Okay.
I'm going to throw out a little helpful information since we talked about key reports earlier, Carolyn.
Yes.
And maybe you mentioned this, but I think this has been super helpful, for me at least, is on the lower left-hand side in key reports is all of the specialists for your area and what they specialize in. So if you click on their name in there, it'll open up a window box so you can email them directly. So you don't have to necessarily hunt through the yellow pages for those of us that are still accustomed to using those. It's like a mini yellow pages within your key report.
Exactly. Oh, thank you for pointing that out. That's really, really a helpful tool. On February the 1st, all the officer training webinars will be available in the EME learning portal. And so we encourage all of the advisors to take these courses and see what the content's all about. It's really, really exciting the way we're doing this. And the live town halls facilitated by the subject matter experts will take place for each officer. And these are really important for your officer. And I think it's a good idea to try to hold the officer accountable for doing this. So, you know, you can, I'm going to click to the next slide so you can see the schedule of when the officers are, when their town halls are. And so one of the things that you as an advisor can do is, so if you're the Panhellenic delegate advisor, and after February the 22nd, sometime after that, you might call her and say, hey, I want you to tell me one new thing you learned, or one new resource you found out about. Hold her accountable for doing these town halls, because this is where the most up-to-date information for each officer is explained and presented. So it's really important for the officers to log on and do these.
Carolyn?
Mm-hmm.
Are these times in Eastern time?
Yes, these are all Eastern Standard Times.
And then definitely make sure if your officer can't attend this webinar or the online pieces she should be able to attend and go through it at any point in time. But she can't attend her town hall section of this. Make sure she encourages someone from her committee to go through it and to be attentive to it. And we understand that night class happens. They are students first. That's where they need to be. But don't just replace for yourself. Make sure we're disseminating that information into the chapter as well.
Yes, very good. Okay, other questions?
I have another comment here for you. Lee wanted me to mention that the new disaster preparedness guidelines are really important, and those I believe are out and available? Question mark from me.
Yes, they are actually in the advisor booklet, and I think that's where I found them today.
Great, great.
Is that
oh, go ahead, Carolyn.
No, if that was from Lee, if that's not correct, have her correct me.
Okay. Jump in here, Lee, if we've misspoken.
They're so new that some of us haven't dug into them a little bit. So
yeah. Hot off the presses, I totally understand.
Yeah, they are.
That looks like the majority of our question. Oh no, Courtney did have one question. Will there be advisor-specific webinars? And I think she's asking, will there be an academic excellence advisor webinar? Will there be a standards advisor webinar?
No, I encourage you to go on to the Every Member Education and do the one for your officer. Our webinars will be more general than officer specific.
Perfect. And I would say as you go through those classes on the EME, really put this lens that Carolyn has provided for you over it. So I as an officer need to do X, Y, Z, but thinking about it, me as an advisor needs to encourage her to do X, Y, Z, or follow up with her when she does that. Carolyn, do you know if the advisors can attend the town hall meetings, or is that for officers only?
I don't know that one.
I don't actually know the answer to that one either. I apologize.
And well, in past years they have been able to attend the webinars, so they may be able to attend the town hall. But I would think that that it is a officer-specific webinar or town hall, so that we would want the input, the questions, all of that discussion to be by the chapter officers and not the advisors.
I would agree.
would be a listen-only time. Well,
unless there's any more questions. Oh, wait. Go ahead, Carolyn.
I was just going to apologize for getting started a few minutes late, but we finished pretty close on time.
Awesome. If anyone has any additional questions, please throw them in there real fast. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening because I think, Carolyn, you're done, correct?
Yes.
Thank you all so much for attending tonight. I really appreciate it. And Carolyn, you are flawless as usual. Thank you for presenting tonight. As you close your webinar system this evening, a survey is going to pop up. Please take a few minutes to answer the questions in the survey. I promise they're not too painful. It really helps us shape our future webinar series and training for our advisors as well as our collegiates in using the system. So if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to the email address provided by Carolyn, education@kkg.org. And I apologize that I'm echoing for all of you can hear me. Thank you again and have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.